Hi, my name's Rohan O'Neill and I'm the CEO of Tenpin Bowling Australia, and welcome to G'Day TBA Round 2. I'm joined today by Jerome, the Chair of Tenpin Bowling Australia, and we are here to answer the questions that were submitted in Round 2 of G'day TBA. As per the first instalment, we were really grateful and surprised by the number of questions that we received, so thank you to everyone that took the time to put a question online. We will get through as many questions as we can in this particular forum. However, any other questions that we've missed will be sent an email and replied to directly. So let's get started.
Yes, that's a good question around the High Performance Centre. The decision to do what we did around the High Performance Centre in Maroochydore was not taken lightly. We had a number of board discussions. We had feasibility studies done on the site, and so we did it with ensuring we crossed our T's and dotted our I's. And I think to have our first high performance centre in Maroochydore and then making it the centre we want to make it is the key driver. The fact that it's based in Maroochydore I think is fantastic, but yes, clearly, if we want to be smart around this, we would need a high performance centre in certain parts of the eastern seaboard and then also in places like Northern Territory or Western Australia. So yes, we'll always explore opportunities around future high performance centres, and those explorations will occur consistently with discussions we'll have with people. Thanks again for the question around the high performance review. That was a really exciting announcement that we made as an organisation. We felt that the high performance program and what that offers to pathways also means a lot to the sport. The review is nearly completed and we'll have it announced mid-September sometime, Rohan?
Yeah, correct, mid-September.
And we'll present it to the board first and then to a wider stakeholder engagement. I think some of the results coming out of it will be amazing for the sport. I'll answer that one too, Rohan. I think the strategy for the sport is all around the Olympics and being part of the Olympics in 2032. Some of the things that the organisation has done, the new high performance centre, the launch of the TPL, the World Cup coming to Australia, the Para World Cup coming to Australia, the high performance review are just one of many things we've got to keep doing to showcase the sport at a high level. We also need a strong international bowling federation, and that's in process as well. So we're eager to continue to innovate the sport and add some motivation around considering Tenpin bowling as an Olympic sport.
Yeah, look, from a ranked event perspective, we are really keen to provide opportunity for the best athletes in the country to bowl. This year we've seen ranked events full and with waiting lists, so that's a really positive step. Are we going to explore future increases in ranked events? Yes, we'll definitely be exploring it. The new Tenpin Premier League model, which we aim to provide an elite level competition at the top, we feel will cascade nicely into our ranked events as well, and we'll be able to really showcase the best athletes. So most definitely be looking at that. From a national championships point of view, we're really pleased we've got one more year in our partnership with Strike 3 to deliver that event down in Hobart, Tasmania, and Event Tassie have been fantastic supporters of that event. And there's no decision beyond this point in time around that particular event. So like 2022, where we managed to have a lot of participants, a lot of people bowling, we're excited about it in 2023 as well. Look, it's a good question around international alignment. So most sports, from what I've experienced or seen, have this same challenge. So marrying up the international level and the fast pace and the requirements at an international level, which you've got all sorts of factors that come into play internationally, broadcast, media rights, everything that goes with that, plus the sport is obviously the centre of it. And then you've got the grassroots, the trickle down to grassroots, and aligning the formats is really challenging. And most sports have this challenge. We do as well. There's a really good uniqueness around the Rockway 5-person team event, which is why it's been going for 60 years. So I think that is something that we feel is really it's got some legs from a sport perspective, and it's unique to what we offer, despite it not being offered at the international level. Now that doesn't mean that we will always continue with 5-person teams for forever and a day, you never know, but it's all about trying to find what's unique, but also align in with the international structures. So it's a really good question. I probably don't have the forecast answer, but it's something that we will be talking about and working through as to what's best for the sport in Australia, but also internationally as well. We're really excited to be announcing the TBA 50s Challenge and Cup will be hosted at Wind City Keon Park in Melbourne, Victoria. So that is going to be held in October 2022. So that's, I guess, fantastic to have that event and to be able to showcase that. We're really grateful for the Victorian government who have supported that particular event coming into Victoria, and also to Wind City and the Wind City Group for having it at Keon Park. And it leads into the 10-pin Premier League finale, which will be hosted also at Wind City Keon Park on that weekend. So that's a key event for the TBA 50. We've also got other international opportunities for our senior bowlers as well, which are really exciting. So I think across our 300 events nationally, there's plenty of opportunity for our senior bowlers, and it's great to have the TBA 50 Cup and Challenge back and ready to roll in 2022.
Yeah, that's a really important question, a cost question, because one of the things that I realised when I got to the sport 2.5 years ago and talking to parents and talking to bowlers is that a lot of that funding is occurring by themselves, you know, and Rohan will sort of know this because we talk about it consistently, that I have a real problem, and the board and the organisation has a real problem with parents and bowlers putting their hand in their pocket consistently, right? And it's not something that I've hidden, Rohan, you know. So I think there's some work getting done around how, as an organisation, we can support bowlers around travel expenses, accommodation expenses, all expenses related to what occurs in this sport, because we can't have families consistently out of pocket, because I also believe that other children then in that family misses out because monies have gone somewhere, you know, to our sport. So it's a good question, and we're working on it, and we will have some outcomes very soon.
Yeah, look, good question. That's really absolutely fundamentally why we've launched the 10-pin Premier League, to be brutally honest. We feel, I mean, number one, it's a scattered set of sports in Australia. It's a pretty mass market of sports. I mean, Sport Australia, I think, support, 60 plus sports financially, and there's 90 recognised bodies. So it's a lot of sports trying to get into a small market when you think of it internationally. The States has really got a real culture of 10-pin bowling, which is probably why there's some great promotion over there. Hence why we've brought in 10-pin Premier League, because we actually believe that it can be used as a great promotional tool for people to get excited about the game, about the sport, follow people, be fans of some of the best athletes that are there, but also take it up themselves. That's the ultimate goal of that. And yeah, we're really excited to be bringing it to people's smartphones, tablets, and into people's lounge rooms in the not too distant future.
And I would sort of like to comment too that some other parts of the world, like the US and Europe, 10-pin bowling is considered a high-profile sport. So there's actual college courses and scholarships that are given to young children or young people that are wanting to bowl, and therefore the promotion and the exposure of that sport is far greater. We don't have that here in Australia yet, you know, because it's seen as a bit more entertainment related rather than true sports related.
Yeah.
You know, so.
There's definitely no need to give it up once you turn 35. That's probably one of the amazing parts of 10-pin bowling, is that it doesn't matter how old you are, you can go 10-pin bowling, what your ability is. In the school area, we have heavily focused on our partnership with Sport Australia and the Sporting Schools program. And basically that is two-part. One, bringing 10-pin bowling to the school to make them aware of it as a sport. And secondly, trying to get the school into the 10-pin bowling centre. And obviously that's critical because the 10-pin bowling centre is you know, beyond the athlete or the participant, is the centre of everything we do. So our schools programs are growing, which is really pleasing. We almost doubled our previous high in terms of that Sporting Schools program with Sport Australia. We've also partnered with the likes of Special Olympics Australia on school-specific curriculum and activities to deliver to specialist schools and children that have a physical or intellectual disability. So that's a big focus of us because they are ultimately the future of the sport, and we need more people coming in at that level to the sport because our you know, that is going to be the future of our leagues and the sport itself. Yeah, look, another great question, and another, you know, core reason why we've spent time and effort trying to build the concept of the 10-pin Premier League for that very reason. So A, to promote to people, B, to get not just Jason Belmonte as an example, who's obviously an absolute star of the game, but to showcase other Australian athletes and get them more, you know, get more appeal for them as athletes and get them more well known. So it might be a Beck Whiting, it might be a Sam Corley, a Beck Kamain, for example, who are in their own rights excellent 10-pin bowlers, and in you know, Sam's case, gold medalist at the World Games, in Beck's case, World Cup winner in 2019. So we really need that league to try and highlight the future of Australian 10-pin bowling. And that's what it's all there about. It's about promoting, it's about getting it in front of people and raising the awareness that it's not only a recreation, it's actually a sport as well.
And look, I also think, Rohan, that the work that you and your team have done to get in front of government bodies and the likes of Queensland Government, Sunshine Coast Council, Victorian Government, and the support they've given in relation to funding around some of the innovation we're bringing to the sport is going to promote the sport to another level, right, around the country. So we need to be mindful that that's already started and we're doing that work, and that work will continue not only with those government bodies, but it could be other territories and states that will also help us.
Yeah, and it's a really good question, and it was great to get a few questions on pathways because naturally that is an absolute critical part of the sport. We're going to look at this probably in two ways. One is what the rest of the country and everyone else in other sports are seeing, and the research is telling us that, you know, there are drop-off points in sport. Yes, it differs sometimes for men and women, but from an age point of view, there's certain points in time where people drop out of sport. So it's at, you know, in that teenage years, there's a drop in participation in organised sport. 18 to 21, yes, another drop in participation sport. There's, you know, then the 25 to 26 mark, and then you keep moving up, and there's certain little points along the line that the research tells us that people drop. You add in the COVID impact over the last couple of years, and again, the research is saying there's fewer people that are playing organised sport as a result of being disconnected over those couple of years from their sport. Within Tempian Bowling's control, what can we do? Well, the most logical thing we can do is offer what that age group want. So number one, let's listen to that age group and understand what they want from a bowling activity or a bowling tournament or a bowling league. Secondly, it's how do we actually appeal to that group? What is it that's going to bring them together for Tempian Bowling? So it's about the social connection, it's about what they do. But I think for me, it's marrying up. There's a lot of impact around retention of that age group in all sports, but it's in what can we do to actually drive more people to stay involved at that level. And it starts with listening to them and understanding what they want. Yeah, look, really thoughtful question, and it's interesting because there's we cater to various levels, right? So we've got the best often get catered to in all sports, and in Tempian Bowling we've got competition off scratch for the elite levels, and there's a pathway for them to bowl for Australia. Then at a local league level, to ensure that you get enough people there, you've got to cater to as many as possible, and there's the handicap system to be able to sort of even that as best as possible out as well. I reckon your question around that intermediate level is a really interesting one. I sort of feel that across 300 events, surely there's an opportunity that we need to try and identify for that level of bowler and for that level of person that really wants to take their bowling to the next level, but sits in that middle ground. And I think it's a thoughtful question, but it's a difficult one because we often cater to where to the top end, but also to the base end because they're two critical parts of it. So look, we're really excited about understanding that a little bit more and seeing if we can see where that can fit in. But really thoughtful question. I don't really know exactly the answer right here and now, but we'll definitely look at it.
The key here is that if you have access to great bowlers and coaches and training and support, that's a wonderful thing. But not everyone has that ability, as you've said in the question. So it's a really interesting question because it sort of starts us thinking, how do we support it at a different level, knowing that there are centres out there that doesn't have this support, and how do we put it into the centre at a certain level at certain times of the day I don't know.
Identify them.
Identify them. So it's a good question, and we'll take it, and understand it a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another pathway question, which I think there's a really good point there around how clear it is, and I would probably agree that maybe it's not as clear as it should be. I think number one, the high performance review that we're doing, I'm anticipating will definitely identify that aspect of it, amongst other things of course, but that there needs to be that sort of clear opportunity for people to develop within the system. So that's number one. I guess the second part to this is that once you've got a clear pathway, it's also about finding out where you are within it. And sports that may not have as many athletes and participants as others need to find this right balance between supporting participation, as you put, that's really important, but then trying to develop the good ones be better. I'm not sure we've got that right balance sorted because we're never satisfied and sitting still. So we'll look at that and see where we can actually improve, A, making it clearer for people coming into the sport, but B, provide sort of that stepping stone vehicle towards bowling for Australia.
If I can make some comment, I'm with Rohan on this. You know, I believe that the pathways aren't clear. We've discussed it at length.
Yeah.
And again, and we've discussed it at board level. And I think, to your point, the high performance review will pull out some of this information and some of this not clearness to an extent, if that's the word. And really, we've got to have some clear guidelines on and how people move up the ladder as such, you know. And it's not, we don't do that well now.
No, I think it's mixed. Yeah. Oh, look, firstly, disappointing to hear that you feel that Tenpin Bowling Australia is destroying the game. But I guess secondly, and maybe to the crux of it, is that the handicap system has been raised by a few questions actually in our list that we received, and some that we haven't been able to include. So it's definitely something that we need to explore and look at and review, because it's important on two fronts. One is to enable people to keep improving and bowling and be the best they can be. But then secondly, to be having something that can still attract new people to the sport, to be able to bowl in league and then still have some motivation within it. That's the art of any handicap system, whether it be in 10-pin bowling, in golf, or whatever the sport may be. So look, definitely take the point that we need to look at it. And hopefully in the future we can see and try and develop the best way forward and improve on what we've currently got. Look, like the other question on the handicap system, I feel it definitely can be reviewed and should be reviewed. We've got to find the right balance in this, and we've got to ensure that we can provide it for bowlers at the top level, but also bowlers that are coming into the sport, and we can't be exclusive to certain people and exclude others, because one of the key strengths of 10-pin bowling is it includes everyone. So I love the question in terms of looking into it and ensuring that people can stay motivated to be involved. And then I think across our 300 event calendar, we've got to make sure that there is a spot for everyone within that too, to be able to perform in tournaments and actually be involved. But I'll take the point on league, and we'll look into it. Phil, thanks for your question. And look, I guess we understand your perspective, given you fortunately not had to do anything there. Look, we feel it's an important part of the coach's toolbox is to ensure that, particularly if they're taking athletes away and underage athletes away, for example, on tours, or they're involved in coaching, that it is a handy skill to have. We have had incidents before at bowling centres, and whilst they're touch wood, few and far between, having a first aider at the bowling centre is a really a positive thing in those circumstances most of the time. So take your point, we do feel it's a good addition to the toolkit for a coach.
And also, Phil, I think we have a duty of care. So if we're an organisation that talks about the right culture, we then got to make sure that even at coaching level that we have a duty of care around health and well-being, right? And a first aid certificate for me is exactly that, right? So, and I understand that you've never done it in 20 years, but it's that one time that you do it in 21 years, all of a sudden it comes handy.
This comes to the sort of real crux of how we need to work closely with industry on how we participate in the sport. So a key part of what we do is we bowl in a centre, and the centre is a commercial business, and they have a huge opportunity in school holidays, because we know that 1.1 million plus Australians go bowling every year, and 22,000 of them are members of TBA or bowl week in, week out. So there's a huge number of people bowling for the recreational side of things, and hence that's what naturally a centre will try and draw towards in those school holiday periods. I mean, my suggestion has been, and it's been consistent from day one, is we need to work together to try and work out how that can happen. And that may mean we need to be as flexible as possible in terms of how we structure leagues and set up leagues, and work with the centre as best we can to ensure that it can cater as best for the league as possible, but also to the ongoing sustainability of the centre. You know, centres are, in my time here, in sort of my role, we've had a number of centres either close up for whatever reason, and that has a bigger impact than missing a couple of weeks for school holidays, in my opinion. So it's a balancing act, as frustrating as it might be. You know, for me, the goal is to ensure that the centre remains open, active, and inclusive of leagues.
Oh, you make a really good point, Rohan, and the question is a good question, but we need to be mindful that if we have centres closing down because of profitability, we can't actually deliver the sport. So they run a business themselves as proprietors and owners, which I would expect them to do, and they make decisions around that. So that's the problem, you know, to an extent. The question around New South Wales probably could have been applied to different states at different times of the journey, right? So, and I think the inconsistency of support and the inconsistency of people on committees and the like has been problematic in New South Wales. What we've got to make sure that we do is showcase a level of professionalism as an NSO to direct a state body, to have systems in place to support financially and a chartered set of accounts and be that NSO support. Then all of a sudden a state can have volunteers get on board, and those volunteers don't actually have to spend a huge amount of time concentrating on running the state. I think we you know, even today I had a conversation with an ex New South Wales chair that, you know, was eager to talk about what he can do to bring New South Wales back, as an example. It was an opportunity. It was funny that was the conversation I had. So it's front of mind for us, New South Wales.
Yeah. I think the only other aspect to any state and territory is we're still reliant so heavily on the volunteers to organise and coordinate, and I think that's a challenge. So, you know, I tip my hat to any of the volunteers working at state and territory level, because they've put in so much time. But the reality now is that it's harder to find new volunteers, and we really need to try and support them as a national sporting organisation as best we can, and we're looking at how we can do that. And that concludes our second instalment of G'Day TBA. I'd like to thank you for taking part, particularly those who asked questions. I do, though, have one question. We've got our chair, Jerome Joseph, here. So it's been a big 12 months, and we've got a massive few months ahead of us. How are you feeling about 10-pin bowling in Australia?
That's a great question. I'm so excited, and I'm excited because, you know, the team and the organisation has sort of evolved to such a level over a very short period of time. I think, you know, we've got the acquisition of our first high performance centre, which was something that we didn't do lightly. It looks like it's going to be a great centre for us, and it's going to really showcase the sport at a different level. And already Sports Australia and others are talking about it, so that's fantastic. I think the World Cup coming to Australia and the Para World Cup, the IBF, you know, World Cups, I think is just an unbelievable result for the sport in this country, and I think we should treat it that way and drive some outcomes as a promotional aspect of the sport. Your creation of the 10-pin Premier League, I still remember when Rohan spoke to me about this idea all those moons ago, and to his credit and his team's credit, it's now coming into fruition, and this evolution will be year one, year two, and the future. I think the review of the high performance program was something that again, I'm really wanting a result out of, because I think there are so many stakeholders out in the marketplace that have points of view on the way we run our high performance program, our NTS program, our coaching program, and that's going to change, you know. And then more importantly, that we clearly have positioned the organisation to be a lot more commercial, you know, and the reason we did that is because if we have a strong commercial organisation, we have a strong P&L and we have a strong balance sheet. So, and we brought in some strong competencies, you know. Julia Featherstone joined the board, coming from a strong people and change background. She's head of Patronus, people and change. We've got Jess Torpy joined the governance committee, who comes from another strong infrastructure background. Anthony Moore has been a consistent sort of member of our finance committee that I'm a member of, and he comes from being CEO of Basketball Australia and some work with the Institute of Sport. So we've also got existing board members that continue to volunteer and drive outcomes for us. We've got a new technology and innovation subcommittee that have been created with some very talented technology people from large corporations joining that committee for us. We've got a new proprietor subcommittee of the board that we've created internally that, you know, Andrew Jacklin from the IBCA and Renee Woolley that will chair that committee is again going to put some more proprietor people around it and for us to understand it. So maybe I've spoken too much, but as you can see, I'm pretty excited.
Excited, mate. Fantastic. So that was great, Jerome. Thanks for that, and thanks to everyone for listening in. Thanks again for your questions. There'll be a third instalment later in the year. I'd say we'll probably time that around the World Cup, so there'll be a lot of content and a lot of interest around that time, and we look forward to joining you then. Thank you.